A cast spells.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Fireside. Well, I'm like on the edge of the screen. Welcome to Fireside number 33. 33. We will endeavor to speak directly to the camera because we still have not resolved our microphone issue.
Yeah, that is the truth.
And we will do our best not to speak over each other. However, since that's actually like how we communicate, that might be difficult.
That's the truth as well.
It's just kind of how we do
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
it. It totally is. I say as I'm mumbling towards Owa, nothing yet.
So how y'all doing?
Yeah. How's your week been?
Okay.
Our week's been pretty damn busy, actually.
Yeah, it actually has
Very
been
busy.
quite a bit now.
Quite a bit has been discussed.
Yeah, in fact, yesterday our what we did this week is probably pretty much the same for all of us, in that we did an exhaustive, I guess you could say, audit of the skills in the game.
Absolutely. In fact, that was the bulk of the work that we did yesterday. Was
we literally went over every skill, how it would be used in the game, how you would use it to tell a story in the narrative.
yeah, in active meeting style, like you see the office around us, and generally we're each at our workstations, calling over our shoulders to one another. But yesterday we had the table in the center of the room. We were facing each other. We had the files up on the screen so we could collaborate, and it was a very meaningful day.
Yeah, indeed. And it was like literally all day, like pretty much 8 hours, barring a couple of breaks here and there. But
Yeah.
as a result, actually here, hold on. I don't know if you'll be able to see.
Frosty as hell. I'm like, what am I reading about? Neurotoxin? Banana glue that smells like bananas. Is it? Oh.
Frosty as F-A-F.
Enjoy.
All right, so what you're looking at on screen are a couple of things that we were working on yesterday as a result of the meeting. The spreadsheet over on the left is sort of a breakdown of the skills and the attributes that they use. So on the attribute usage table over there, you can see every attribute in the game and how many times they're used by a skill. The category usage, on the other hand, sort of breaks the skills in the game down into 3 broad categories: skills used for the combat system, skills used for the magic system, and all of the other skills that we call like craft skills, skills that represent player abilities or proficiencies. So crafting, trade, thieving, performing, all that kind of stuff. That's why there's so many in that category.
Right.
And then on this actual tab of the spreadsheet are all of the skills that actually survived the audit process, plus a few that have been added and renamed.
There were just some places where we found that we had created skills so that you could do particular things in the game where you needed a numeric value for us to run checks against, that in an actual tabletop environment that's not quite as necessary, or the checks are different. I think one example was wasn't diplomacy. Diplomacy was what we used to describe to suss it out, but it was something like that, which was a very broad discussion. There were actually a couple that were like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and outwit was another one. Well, I just roll my outwit. Well, in a video game where you're dealing with an NPC,
that makes sense.
You need to roll your outwit against his, knowledge or perception or whatever, right? But if you're playing with players, you gotta outwit the dude, or at least get your narrator to play along with you.
Right, you've got to at least pretend like that's what you're doing. And that's actually a big piece of why we made some of the changes, is about how they support narrative.
Right, and storytelling in general.
So, we made a lot of... So, for example, in the original breakdown, all of the horsemanship skills were split out into, a bunch of different skills. A skill for using a hammer while on a horse, etc. Instead, what we did was remove most of those skills so that you now have combat horsemanship and regular horsemanship. And then we'll handle all of the other stuff in the stances that you can get using combat horsemanship.
Right.
That way, the stance system is getting accurately represented there, and at the same time, we get rid of skills that you're really probably only going to use 3 or 4 times in an adventure. Right. And replace them with one skill that instead you'll use, 15, 20 times in an adventure.
Right. A more catch-all, and then the refinement comes in how you apply it.
Right, and where the systems allow for that in the pen and paper game, they used to not in the Meow, and that's kind of why we had some of the really hyper-specific skills that we did.
Indeed.
That said, we did not abstract everything, only the things that made sense to consolidate that way.
Correct.
So, for example, we actually blew out tactics. So originally all we had was shield wall, as you all remember, which we actually instead turned into small unit tactics. Then later there'll be siege tactics, large unit tactics, mixed cavalry tactics. We probably won't call it that, but that kind of thing. But only once we add all of the stuff that makes siegecraft worthwhile. So for the moment, we're holding off on most of those, but that's the plan later on. So that'll get all blown out instead of consolidated.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly, Neuro. Perception is still the most important skill, followed by intellect. And
Hey, I'm biased.
There's some bias there, but I don't necessarily dislike my bias there.
No, it's
Also-
I think it's a well-informed bias. I think if you're not perceptive or intelligent, well, maybe the perceptive and the intelligent have something on you.
And jokes aside, it's a game about exploration and
Investigation.
right? And so we're actually more of a, Daniel Jackson and Stargate, or at least what everyone claims Daniel Jackson and Stargate is. We're more like
Milo in Atlantis.
Milo and Atlantis, the scholarly adventurer with the group of people that keep them alive. And so it doesn't bother me that that's true.
Also, having done some research in more than one different rule set, you'll find that you will actually see this trend of perception or perception-like skills. Sometimes it's wisdom, other times it's no, it's usually wisdom, but intellect, wisdom, these are attributes that get used more often because there are more things I can roleplay using these skills than there are with, well, what do you do with your strength, Big Joe? I
lift gates.
Yeah, you went to the exact same joke I went to. But honestly, this trend isn't, though it is biased, and we like to joke about how we like intelligent and perceptive people, this trend doesn't seem to be something that in paper and pencil RPGs hasn't been a concern.
Alone.
Yeah, it's not a concern of anybody else. Or at least it doesn't look that way. In 5.0, they still have that bias. In 4.0, they have that bias. They've had that bias in D&D since first edition.
Since the beginning.
So if they've gone on for so long, I'm gonna say that
it's accepted in the
it's an accepted
tabletop
bias.
nerd community that intelligence and perception are maybe important.
I think it's an accepted bias anyway. And I've literally did my best to try to go through every single task and skill and try to argue for why something might need resilience or maybe you need to be physically strong or fit as well in order to do this trade, even though it is a trade mostly of intelligence. Snipe Hunter and I had a conversation, for instance, on whether glass making should have a resilience component to rolling it, because not only do you have to deal with heat, but also, as somebody who has made beads before, think about making 500 beads in a day or something, because literally this craftsman has nothing else to do with his time. This is how he makes money.
Or is making money, right?
Yeah, right. And he has to
These
hold his
muscles.
hands
Pretty
like this
solid.
all day
Just doing your stuff.
long.
One with the,
And
one
so
with the rod.
that could be argued as a resilience or a physique thing. And because we have 3 attributes to every single skill, we can kind of work around it. But the trend still, it stays despite my best efforts. And I still have to go through it again because of some of the new skills that we've made and some of the renamed.
Yeah, a
renaming
few of
that
them
we've done.
haven't had their attributes assigned yet.
Yeah.
They're new.
Yeah, like less than 24 hours old.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in any way saying we were slacking there. I'm just saying there is still some work to be done. So the other side of the screen over there, the bullet pointed list.
Oh, yeah. This is pretty cool.
This actually came out of our conversation about magic. So you guys might remember the spellcraft stuff from the Meow and the way spell books and spell pages would work. We blogged about it a couple times, as I recall. So we're basically carrying over those mechanics with almost no real changes. I'm sure as rubber meets the road, some things will change just to accommodate it being pen and paper. But the overall backbone of the system, where you use symbols and spell circles to craft spells, that consumes the symbols to create the spell. Using the spell deteriorates the spell page until the spell page is destroyed. That whole ecosystem is going to come back into the pen and paper game.
Right.
So what you're looking at over here on the right-hand side of your screen is a list of the basic symbols that every magical language will probably have some version of.
Right. The core symbols for the 3 basic magical languages.
Yeah. Remember, just as a refresher, there's the magical language of Theleston, or if you prefer, the language of the Elder Gods.
Right.
There's the magical language of like universe, for lack of a better way to put it, the magical language used by most of the great old ones.
Right.
And then there's the
Star
the
Children.
primal language, the magic of creation itself, and that's basically the magic of the outer gods.
Right. The howling of Azaptoth.
And there are 3 different systems with 3 different shaped languages for their symbols, etc., so that they're all different, but they all have to support some basics for building spells for spellcraft to work. And so this is sort of a list of those basics. And you can see there's kind of a pretty long list here already. Though they're really actually simple. This does not include specialized things. So this does not include the symbols that like only Anima would have. Or
right.
That,
the lost or the arcane symbols.
Right, or that like only Nyarlathotep would have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the symbol language is never fixed. Like in game, nobody knows how many symbols exist in all of these languages.
The search is ongoing.
And
that also allows for storytellers to insert their own, glyphs into your adventures.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so actually lore-wise, because this is an interesting question, just a quick switch into lore, right? The reason why nobody actually knows all of the runes is actually kind of interesting. You said once the people use the spell that they forget the knowledge of the rune eventually after a period of time, so it can be written in let's say a specially treated spell book or something in which you can write down the rune, and then with every casting of the spell the page will wear until it disintegrates with time. But this also fucks with your memory, right? So I could have the special Verde symbol for, a green harvest, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I use it, if I haven't marked a place on my map for where I found that symbol, or if I haven't put that symbol inside of a spell book and I only find a way to use it once, I forget about Verde's symbol of green. Physically have no recollection of the symbol itself. It was I remember once I cast this spell and I did this thing, but I no longer recall how I did it.
Yeah, the knowledge is burned away from your memory of the actual image. You probably remember having done it.
Yeah, you probably remember
just
that there is a symbol for a verdant harvest, but you don't remember what that symbol is.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I like the way that plays in with people.
It's not people's magic. That's kind of the important thing to remember. Right?
Yeah, you're a conduit. And maybe a hacked conduit.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm pretty sure that if you go far enough back, you'll find that one of the gods of Theleston gave people knowledge of these symbols for the purpose of fighting the threat to Theleston. These symbols weren't really meant for them. They're not. Our brains aren't designed to speak that language. Design's a bad word, but they don't have the capacity.
Anima didn't mean to put the deep structures in for magical processing innately.
Right, exactly. There are, certain servants of the gods who are basically fluent in these languages, for lack of a better term, but not people. People weren't meant to do that. That's why it drives you mad.
Indeed. And with regard to comparing them to stances, fighters learn a stance and then can know that stance. Don't know that you can lose a stance through usage.
They have requirements,
but they do have requirements. So if you were to ablade, if you were to ablade a particular skill, you wouldn't be able, or attribute, you wouldn't be able to use a stance that needs that skill or attribute. And likewise, the spells you can put into a spell book, and then they are more or less stable there, depending on the spell book.
Right. Well, okay. Might as well just go over all of them. Can
dig it
here? Actually, let me bring our faces back. Hi. Can you just scoot that way a little bit?
It's an interesting question, Sam. I think that might happen somewhere, though that would have to do with the act of, I believe we called it sorcery. I think that would be an act of sorcery. It's just the person wouldn't know that that's what they were doing.
Yeah. What we were talking about would be, more abstractly ego magic, where you're working your will on the universe without
realizing by what
mechanism
you're actually affecting the these things.
Yeah, and that's scary enough that I think Broggians might react a little.
Yeah, there ain't no automatic writing magic allowed in the Broggian Abbey.
No, not even allowed in the
In
Broggian
fact,
Abbey.
I'll bet you there's a story somewhere
Yeah,
where somebody started that
I
and it never stopped.
No, I think the Broggian, if they heard about some dude doing that, right, that's like one of the rare occasions you might even see a strike team go out and like pick somebody up off in the middle of the street because that guy can create magic without what? No, absolutely fucking not.
I think it happened to a Broggian.
Oh my god.
And I think they walled him in.
Oh my god.
Well, that's what you would do.
Yeah.
All right. So to get back to what I was talking about. So it's not so much that like every time you cast a spell it's gone. When you copy a symbol that you find in the world, you have to do so using specially treated paper designed to imprint that symbol. Without any other support, that paper would be consumed the second that you activated the symbol, right? Spoke it appropriately if it's that kind of symbol, made the gesture if it's that kind of symbol.
Right, but you would hold the leaflet in your hand, do the thing, and it would be consumed by the magic that coursed through it.
Exactly. And that would be that
spell.
Which is why you don't find a lot of like dabblers in magic who are just in their attic laughing about with spells, because they lose the knowledge as quickly as they play with it. But if you're serious about it, you take that symbol on that paper and you use that paper's activation to transfer it to a spell page. And the spell page is stronger. It can last multiple activations of the magic before it's deteriorated.
And I'm sure that the binding probably helps that, the fact that the spellbook was prepared by a ritual.
Well, spell books are a level above what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're just making pages.
Just the page.
Yep.
Right. Just the page is already stronger than the tracing paper that you've used.
Yeah. Well, and that, again, though, is because the paper was treated and was consecrated for the use.
Correct. So you copy the symbol down, right? Now that symbol can be used 3 or 4 times before the page disintegrates. You can further protect the page by placing it in a spell book, which is a specially prepared binding designed to preserve the pages within them. Some spell books are so powerful, the pages never go away. And these are the Granite Grimoires. Usually they're so powerful that they have prices and agendas of their own. We've talked about that before in the past too. But even like a really powerful mage's, old lifelong spell book probably has pages in it that last 1,000 castings, right? And so these become coveted objects. So if I'm new to the practice and I want power, I'm hunting down mages and killing them for their spellbooks.
It's a very dark way to seek power, sir.
We're talking about people who literally play with madness every day.
Sure.
Right. But not only that, I'm paying attention to the state of my spellbook so that I know when I need to prepare a new one so that I don't lose those spells. Because copying the spell from one page to another is an activation of the spell and will degrade the paper.
Right.
So this is one of the reasons that magic knowledge gets lost in the world too, right? A mage with no ability to make a new copy, but still has a need to use the spells, will burn them out.
Or loses a spell book to someone less powerful or less knowledgeable.
Can't make a copy.
Right.
Right.
Who just burns them out because they needed that spell to do that thing.
Yep.
Whatever that thing may be. Indeed. And with regard to Silkite's other question, I think that is more likely a case of someone manipulating the mage from outside. And there are various ways you could do that, but ways where you can talk in their head and make them, follow their magic.
Oh, we kind of though. We don't have magic that is directly I can make you go crazy magic.
Well, no. This is more like puppeteering or suggestion or
yeah. Absolutely. I could see that, but I remember
tricking you into reading Tom Riddle's journal.
Yeah, that's okay, but we need to mementos subtilis when it comes to our magic, because I remember very specifically Snipe Hunter saying that he didn't want magic that was like, and I go crazy so I can travel through the realms, and now I'm not crazy so I can come back. Yeah. And like we don't have that.
No, the specific example we came up with for I want to make you crazy would be that I would have to use my magic to open a doorway or make the membrane between here and a particular realm. another planar realm thin and then shove you through it.
Yeah, or
and that's not me going, you're crazy. That's me using multiple types of magic in order to transport you there.
Yeah. Though, like...
Which is essentially driving you crazy by proxy.
Yeah, classic gaslighting tactics would still work.
Yeah, so...
Sure.
So if you were an illusionist, you could, make the room dimmer and dimmer and dimmer.
No, it's not darker in here, honey.
Right.
Yeah.
That
You
kind
could
of stuff
also
you can
show
do,
them
but there's no, like...
the visage of a
You're
Shoggoth.
crazy!
Y'all fucking crazy! Oh, child. That's spelled this one.
No.
You could show them the visage of a Shoggoth.
The visage?
The visage.
Visage.
I
Visage.
think it's visage.
Hit up the tile.
Sure.
Visage.
Hey, check it out. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. That would drive somebody crazy pretty quickly.
So,
If
here's
it was
the
an
issue.
accurate
I was going to
representation,
say, the issue with a visage,
it doesn't matter if it's
a visage of a Shoggoth.
It doesn't matter if
would
it's
be-
an accurate representation or not, as long as the other person believes that it's an accurate
Yeah,
representation.
right, exactly.
I get that. But in Greyshore...
Isn't that some deep fucking illusion shit too?
in Greyshore, though, consider what different ways do they have to reproduce an image, right? Basically, what you're going to see is a horrific painting. Or something where you're just like, that's weird. Unless the guy is, like, master of realism.
Yeah.
The Rembrandt of Tide's End.
Right.
Who paints it so realistically you believe he actually saw that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe that would twist your brain.
Yeah,
But maybe
at that
not.
point-
I mean, if you've been in his gallery and seen many of his paintings and gone, oh, so you paint the krakens of the sea, do you? And he's like, yeah, they're not real, and you believe they're not real, you're probably not going crazy when you go look at his paintings.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we use Shoggoth in that example
What if
is
they were-
because their visage
Yeah.
is itself madness-inducing.
Yeah, it's formless. It's,
Well, what if he actually
It's a blurb
drew?
of eyes.
What if for
And
some
eyes
reason
and
he
mouth,
actually?
yeah.
What if some way he actually drew an accurate visage of?
Yeah, what if it
Of a
actually
Shoggoth.
seemed to shift and morph in the canvas?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like he's got magical pigments, or he's
No,
just
no.
an ace
I'm-
painter.
yeah, I'm-
he's
no,
just
I'm
that
saying-
good.
So driven was he by the vision in his mind that when he painted it, it was imbued with
That's an artifact.
his yearning. Yeah,
That there is an artifact.
absolutely.
And everyone that puts their eye on it
goes
gets a
kind of crazy.
gets a little nutty until somebody comes along and quietly removes it.
Yeah, goes and hangs
Puts it
it
in
in
their
some
own
gallery.
Maybe puts it in a
Deep,
gallery
dark
behind
place.
the black
Right,
velvet
right,
curtains.
right.
so that they can stare at it when they want to.
No, so that none may look on it unless they need to.
So earlier, Lake had asked which of the three magical languages is the one that the Fae use.
I was going to answer that. Actually, so I think that requires some narrowing of how we're going to define Fae. Because as it is, I've described certain sets of forest spirits that are, more or less independent, that could be considered fairy.
Right.
And then there are the servants of Hyleti and Deno that are, more or less forest spirits, so could be considered a type of fair. But like an elf or an Alfar or
Well, that's
a
not.
Stee,
Yeah.
that sort of thing would be from beyond.
Right.
That's not of Theleston. So those would be Great Old One, whereas all the things I said previous would be Elder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are also there are weird and interesting servants for other gods as well that have been written about in stories. Maybe not outright said about.
They're not called out for who they are.
Yeah, but those guys,
Hey, what?
those are sort of, would you call them sort of like the greater fae that stories in England talk about the ones that look like people that
Sure.
are interact and walk around?
If they're demigods of Theleston,
Yeah.
they're elders.
Okay. They're an elder.
If they're demigods
Yeah.
of Tellus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fays are still
they're-
elders. They're just like minor elders.
In a way.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
They're of similar source,
Make.
I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's kind of why I was drawing those lines too, because
Yeah.
you're a being like an elf or Loki in the Marvel universe is from beyond. That's
Yeah.
not.
He's from Asgard. He's from a different planet.
He's
literally
from
an
a
alien.
whole, yeah, exactly. In the Marvel universe, a different planet. In our fiction, a different plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would describe them on Theleston as being great old ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas your average brownie of the hedge is an elder.
Actually, it's kind of funny because of the books that I have over there, the ones that are based off of Tolkien's, or not based off of Tolkien, that Tolkien based his One Ring off of. You remember The one with the Valkyrie singing.
Ring of the Nibelung.
Yes, right. So it's actually funny over
Wagner's
there.
Ring Cycle.
Yeah. What would the dwarf who finds the ring be considered as if he was something that was found on Theleston? Because I know we don't have humanoid other races, but
he's a Nilfheim. I even know what he is.
He's a dwarf, basically. They call him he's a mountain dweller, basically. Is he an elder because he is from the planet, or is he an outer because he's
dwarf shaped?
Because he's dwarf, he's more intelligent.
That's outer-ish.
Kinda is. Yeah.
I think if he was born of a mortal here on Theleston and has Anima's life within him, he is one of the Thelestonians.
Okay.
Or the Thelestonians.
Thelestonians.
I prefer Telestoner.
Nope.
Telestone.
Telestoner.
Nah.
I'll get you Telestone.
It's German.
Dwarf aliens. Okay. Well, dwarf aliens.
No, aliens would be great old ones. So like the bad guy in Leprechaun, I'm pretty sure he's a great old.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Is Chucky an elder?
No, Chucky is a homunculus or a golem.
Oh, holy shit!
And actually,
he's possessed though.
Yeah, Chucky's a special case because he's
spirit.
possessed.
Yeah.
So he's actually a spirit that someone has either he in the original movie did it himself. I think he was a Satanist in the original movie. I believe there was actually Satan involved, but he used magic to put himself into the doll at his dying moment. Anima would find this
abhorrent.
Yeah,
abhorrent.
Absolutely.
It may in fact be right.
It
See,
really
Rose
does.
caught on.
Exactly.
What happened with Chucky may be very similar to what the Dollmaker in the stories of the Dollmaker is doing.
Yeah.
Only our Dollmaker does a really good job. They don't look like Chucky. I mean, Chucky's obviously a doll, right?
Yeah.
These ones may be
Yeah.
right on that liminal line. And maybe that's why he does.
Yeah, and
Best
also, since we're on the topic of sort of Fae, and now that I know the difference, right? Are there, just like how we know of certain elder gods who maybe just don't give a fucking shit about Thelestonians, right? Like Beth Galar, right? Are there...
Laura cares quite a bit about the affairs of
No,
Telestoners.
I thought Beth Galar just likes wanton murder of
Correct.
people.
So there must be Telestoners.
Okay.
So there must be Telestoners, and they must be wantonly murdering.
I guess you're right. Absolutely. But are there minor elders or fae, right, that are considered like where the Tooth Fairy myth comes from?
Sure.
Where she used to come into people's houses and literally rip teeth out of people. Are there elders or stories like this?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. You thought that was the dentist? No, I thought that was the Tooth Fairy.
Sorry.
I don't get what these guys are talking
It
about.
was from the
Yeah, you don't remember? I have a serial murderer in my city that I cannot investigate
Shit!
because all my fucking detectives are flakes and assholes.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, DOP crew. Tangent.
No, absolutely. But are there these questionable?
I believe
Fae?
there are,
And
and I
are
think
there-
that's a wealth of stories and fun stuff for
And
us.
are there life ways that people how to deal with that? So if one of those things appear and you happen to have the wise old man who's like, oh well, that's Shimabooby Baba, and if you
I'm
get
sure
rid of
there
the
isn't one
Shimabooby
named
Baba,
Shimmy Boo Baba.
I know, I
Not in our section of Theleston, maybe elsewhere in the world.
yeah,
It's probably a mispronunciation at least.
Sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, those Brogans, they're trying to what do they, Broganize everything they hear.
But for what we'll call the Shin, right? You've already said yes. So there are people and how they react to those.
Yeah,
things.
and I would assume that I'll just put forth that those are localized customs.
Okay.
That have to do with these very localized.
I was about to say,
stories or-
are those elders very localized, or can these minor elders also seem to transcend sort of like Bast or
clearly-
Ka?
clearly vast, traveled
Mhm.
with her people.
Yeah.
So it stands to reason that some may travel, but if they're attached to a particular physical location because of the physical location, or because of an event, or because of an object,
Yeah.
you would then have to move the object.
So here is the real reason why I wanted to ask this question.
Put it in the Wiki Lake.
Are there nymphs
Lakes.
in the Fall Creek Forest?
Are there what?
Are there nymphs in the Fall Creek Forest?
I'm sure there are people that think that there are something like an nymph in that forest.
It's dryad-like things that are connected to like
There
the
are
single
superstitions
tree
from the
and-
people in the lowland. There are things like that.
Okay. I just wanted to know if the myth was there or not because those are one of my favorite fantasy creatures, and it's not because they're naked women. I also like the satyrs as well.
I'm down with sylphs.
Yeah, I think sylphs are awesome.
In fact, never mind. Not gonna go there. I know there are 2 people in my audience who would love to see me walk down that path, and I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna point at the path and go, "There's a path there." A little sign that says sylphs, and sylphs kick the shit out of dark elves every day of the week. So yeah, I bet there's sylphs.
Did they ever make that song?
That song?
Zone.
Zone.
No.
They're
No, and
talking about
in
the
fact, there is a
butter-
legend now
Really?
about the sylph, and there's somebody who's very vociferous about how they'll never happen. There won't be any sylphs.
Really?
They're a myth. They won't happen. Mm-mm.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Wow,
Interesting.
I know what they're talking about. I like it when I actually know what they're talking about.
I don't want to fight it, fuck it, or be it. Doesn't belong in the game.
That's not what he said. He's quoting somebody else. I swear to God, please don't.
That's not that good.
By the way, I would fuck the sylphs. They were hot.
Would you fuck the satyrs too? Just say it. It's PC.
So here's the problem with this.
I'm joking.
I have to answer yes because satyrs are innately so sexual
Yeah.
that when you are near them, you're driven to wanton displays.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
absolutely.
Likely so.
Yeah.
What happens in the forest stays in the forest.
Yeah. I know. I know. I'm crying deep inside. That's a good one.
It's me right now.
Yes. So I got my question out about the sylphs and the fae, and I kind of like that. How closely related can we treat these fae stories, right? Like ones from like
Interesting,
Britain
right?
or Celtic stories, right? How closely related can like a narrator take examples from old Celtic mythology about fairies? And I'm talking about like hardcore mushroom rings and things like
Sure.
that. How parallel is that when it comes to these
I think
lesser elders?
that's
and the
down
fae?
to your storyteller
Okay.
and kind of how you guys feel about portraying the local god that you're, the little local demi power that you've created for the story.
Mm-hmm.
And if we write one, well then we'll write we'll write what its things are and
Yeah, right.
and that stuff. But if you're making it yourself, it's kind of between you and your storyteller. And I don't think you have to sit with just, Northern Ireland Celtic Bay stories. I think you can apply the same structure
Mm-hmm.
as any piece of folklore there's folklore from all over the world.
Yeah.
Like, basically pick your favorite ancient civilization,
Mhm.
and there's folklore involving gods interacting with the people and the servants of the gods
Absolutely.
acting as go-betweens, and these are all applicable. I'm pretty sure you can shake the details off of any one of these structures and create a Theleston.
Pele testing people as an old
Haley's a good
lady.
one. I have.
Oh yeah,
I forgot what
I've learned so much about Hawaiian lore lately
Because of your-
stuff,
yeah.
right? And some of these myths are great and super applicable to Theleston.
I forgot the name of the anime. It's technically for kids, like for young kids, but they're like little kid fairy tales, except they're all Japanese
is it
fairy
like
tales.
folklore in Japan or something?
No, yeah, it's folklore,
yeah.
and so they're little tiny little cartoon characters, and so they'll tell like 15-minute renditions of like the old man and the Neko spirit
Yep.
that
Yeah.
then eventually
I've seen some of them. I thought they
became
were
the
really cool,
inspiration for why this old man made the greeting Neko, which is the lucky,
Yeah,
which is
Absolutely.
the
Like,
lucky cat.
I actually like
I
the
like
Kitsune
Kitsune.
stories too.
I like
There's a lot
Kitsune.
of them. They're fun.
Yeah, they're super awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The Falkirk story that I'm working on right now is
They're not zany. A lot of them are terrible. They're just also fun.
yes, is I believe Welsh in its beginnings, the form that I'm using. But then other things I've done, I've used bits of Hindu folklore. I've shaken off bits of some African stories I've read, and you just take them and just repaint the lines.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if anyone's even seen Gravity Falls, which is a good Disney cartoon, this is a Theleston story.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
watch it all the way through.
Absolutely.
Get over the fact that it's for kids. It's totally a Theleston story.
Yeah. Do you ever see Mushishi?
Oh,
I've
yes.
seen pieces of Mushishi.
Some of the stories in that one are hardcore Theleston stories.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, that's probably happened somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Spice and Wolf. Everybody kept telling me I gotta watch Spice and Wolf because it's super in. Yeah, absolutely. Right down to the fact that one of them is a goddess.
Yeah.
You know.
You learned that in the first episode.
No, it's not. I'm not. I wasn't saying spoilers. I'm saying that most of the people around her
correlate.
Yeah.
don't realize that she's a goddess.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Sale's right. Like, yeah. From the roots of Shinto doth rise a forest of fey-like beasts. Yeah, Nero, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, Gravity Falls is interesting.
It's very, very odd.
Surprisingly, yeah.
And that soundtrack is wicked cool.
All right, well, we didn't exactly have a topic. I mean,
For the lore?
Well, we did.
No, we
threw some
did.
stuff around.
I had an idea, I think, a bit, that we can
And I
chase.
had one that I liked too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been discussing that that Theleston has a mystical beast problem. And this is sort of highlighted this week because of JK and her like snorcoglins and snizzbobbles and a whole world of fanciful creatures. You know, and we don't really have a fanciful.
They're fantastical beasts.
Sure.
Yeah.
We don't really have that sort of
Oh,
thing
and
going
I
on,
have had some good conversations about this.
long and colorful conversations because I mean,
And we're at an understanding, though.
many fantasy worlds have beasts, and you go fight the beasts, and there's a dragon, and there's monsters.
Yeah, where's the owlbear?
Right? Where's our freaking owlbears? And how does this all
Owlbear's
happen?
a great example because, oh my god,
Fuck,
don't
Wizard
get him
did it.
on fucking Owlbear.
Just don't get me on Wizard did it, because, you know, a wizard can do it once or twice, but if a wizard did it over and over and over again, come on, you guys.
Well, yeah, actually, the
You
only
guys
thing,
have a wizard
You have a
regulation
fucking
problem.
wizard problem.
The
Right.
the only thing or monster actually I would expect you to allow me to say wizard did it with is alchemical slime thing that eats things and thus multiplies when it eats, and so is it some
Don't make that
singular
shit.
creature that is out there, but it is multiplied, and so it is a rare not singular creature anymore, but it is a rare beast that somebody might be able to come across on because it's a slime.
Shh, guys, it's a great old one.
The slime is a great old one that one can make via alchemy.
Well,
No, he's saying it wasn't alchemical.
it wasn't
Oh.
alchemical to begin with. It's
Oh
a
my
great old one.
god.
And now it's having people make more of
Oh my god.
it.
Green
That's
slime
why you need the
confirmed.
magic. Anyways, so we've discussed things, and like in conversation today, at one point we were like, well, so what would you do if you wanted to be a big game hunter? And I'm like, well, it's a very small part of Theleston here, and we're not likely to have rhinoceri or hippopotamuses, you know. So maybe you go hunt a large bear, because we know there's bears and
The most exotic
probably
thing,
some boars. There's big cats in a few places.
the most exotic thing is like the big cat, so it's
You know,
a
but
Valar lion, honestly. Is
eventually-
probably the biggest, most
Caribou.
aggressive thing you
Yeah,
can hunt,
caribou.
other than maybe a bear.
Right, but in the end, we came up with
People.
with only so many heads you could put on your
Ocean.
wall of your lodge.
Most of
You
them
know,
are in the ocean.
Maybe 10, you know, and they weren't not very diverse, and they're all sort of mundane creatures. So where are all the monsters? And the thing is, we think that the monsters are on the other planes, are drawn through from other planes, are the effects or servants or even the embodiments of these lesser gods in some cases.
Or servants that have gone rogue.
Or servants of. So we know, for example, that some gods died or were destroyed or were banished or imprisoned during the dark times, the wars between the gods and the people. So they had servants, or they had perhaps, you know, creatures that were
Are now lost.
they're beasts, right? But it's essentially the people of that god that were not people at all. They were some sort of thing
Yeah.
creature or monster or whatever.
Some must
to
have
our
even been
perception.
driven mad because of it.
Well, and now their god is gone. So
Yeah.
maybe they have no direction, or maybe they've been driven mad by the sundering between their god and themselves. Perhaps that was a way that they were attacked, is just that they were drawn away from their source. So these are the monsters that exist in Theleston. They tend to be very singular and tied to a story. I mean, while there are creatures of the world, most of the strange and mysterious beasts have a legend associated with why they are where they are. And we don't have naturally occurring giant flying monitor lizards.
Right. No, I was going to say, in a lot of cases, you couldn't be a big game hunter who wanted to hunt these monsters because they're almost like, I hate to jump on the Warhammer train, but they're almost like plagues that have to be burned out. They're like outbreaks.
Yeah. Somebody opens a doorway. Somebody opens an ancient vault. Right. Activates the wrong idol.
But there is one exception to that, and that's the oceans. Right. Nobody polices beneath the waves.
Well, and there could be gaping maws to aqueous realms.
Right. Absolutely. Or creatures that have come from other planes that have been breeding down there now for thousands of years.
We know of a few that exist.
Sure.
And they do have progeny.
Exactly. So you'll find that coastal towns and sailors tend to be the places and people that you find the most horrific stories from.
Right. Things crawling out of the ocean just up the side of the boat. Where did it even come from?
So, pardon me. So, for example, in the story that I'm writing right now, what happens to Havensport, while rare, isn't entirely unheard of. Sometimes whole cities do end up dead.
Yeah. Well, the coastal ones.
Yeah.
Why coastal cities are dangerous.
It's why there are so few large cities.
As well. Well, yeah. And especially
there's a lot of coast where we are.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the map, there's a lot of coast. Also, the sound is intensely deep. It's super deep.
Yeah, deeper than it ought to be.
Deeper than it ought to be. And so
Nobody knows
we don't know what's down there.
Like, you can't put an anchor off once you go off the cliff.
These are little draggy anchors.
Yeah,
the ones that
kind of so.
Yeah.
It's more just along the lines of, knowing that we're writing this, what are the challenges that we face? And it's kind of interesting to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we haven't really codified that sort of thing, and it's been a looming question. It's like, if you were to go play like a regular MMO and want to go just hack monsters, where will you find them? Right. The chances are that you will have to go seek them out individually, or that they will happen around you and you'll have to react.
Yeah, in the very original revival story, like in the very first story, the whole thread begins with a village that is suddenly overwhelmed with we call them imps, but they're kind of like Azathoth's servants. They're like locusts, but they have arms and legs and sharp bits.
Yeah.
They're voracious. They just tear the whole village apart and then kind of disappear again. They show up in the middle of the night, do their thing, and are gone. And this whole investigation, of what the hell, how did that happen? Is this going to happen again? Sort of opens up the rest of that story.
Right.
Which is funny because it all happens in a prelude. You don't even realize the main character is related to it until like halfway through. But
yeah, that was a fun story.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's that kind of thing is still going on, right? That sort of ethos of the really terrible monsters are out there, but they're never right where you're looking. They're never. You can't just go, oh, no one goes to Mordor, right? There isn't a Mordor anywhere could become Mordor like that.
Right. Well, and some places were at some point, but then some places were essentially Mordor until people came
and burned them out. Yeah.
And now they're where that place used to be. And maybe there's something still down in the crevices somewhere. Maybe giant spider is left behind.
Yeah,
someone
absolutely.
to find.
Absolutely.
But they're not common. They're not. There is no that's the veil of the giant spider over there.
Yeah, we talked about, for example, at the poles, some of the monsters are probably far, far worse because they're adapted to,
Correct.
to longer winters or longer summers, or right, like.
So, for example, if you were to go up into the real extreme pole areas, let's throw this on the floor. The extreme poles, you have periods of darkness that last
6 months.
9, right?
Yeah, longer.
Yeah, 9
So-
months.
And maybe there's
Longer,
some
18.
maybe
Right.
there are beasts that came to Theleston however they did that are very photosensitive, and so they go deep into the earth until the 9 months of darkness.
Yeah.
And then they rise out. And so now you have the frozen wasteland with the creature of the night that can only come out at dark, and you have 9 months of solid dark. So you have hostile environment and soul-rending creature. And that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think you get what's his name, Vin Diesel,
To handle that?
to handle that.
Yeah, sure. You can come out of anything like that. That's faith.
Oh, he had a shine job on top.
Sure. So, where are the beasts?
I'm sure that Sir appreciates that, though. So I don't think that your sacrifice goes unnoticed.
Beasts are in the deep crevices beneath the earth and under the waters and lapping waves of the sea.
Well, so one of the reasons that whaling is a dangerous pursuit is that the whales themselves, of course, are aggressive and etc. The whales are aggressive because they fight off dangerous predators all the
Yeah,
time.
are you saying
But I-
that our whales are more aggressive than maybe Earth whales?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's actually,
No,
we've mentioned that
yeah.
before when we talked about whaling.
Yeah, and they're very
Like we have less baleen whales, maybe more medium
Or say
whales.
we're more sperm whale than baleen. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all Moby Dick.
But also, I'll bet you there are also things in the water that are whale scaled that maybe are different than whales, but also eat people that like to spear them.
Right.
Or I could
That
see a
eats
very
people that
large
like to spear them.
linifern, or
Megalodon.
or like a
I don't like sharks, but
A
I
net
can
devil.
see a
Yeah.
with a
megalodon.
really long noodle, with a glowy ball this big that you can see off in the distance
Yeah.
from your boat.
Oh, there's a ship over there. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's that color of blue that you go, oh, we got a, can you eat
Other way.
other?
Yeah. Sargassos that are actually giant, sea orchids.
Oh, that's a good idea too. That's cool.
Exactly, Drew.
Yes, whalers will get screwed all the time. So yeah, that's the kind of tone that I wanted to take with monsters of Theleston. They're otherworldly creatures that have lost their anchor or their plane.
Right. If the world were perfect, the average Telestoner would literally never see them.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Exactly.
And when it comes to general fauna as well, like on the land, don't think that just because these creatures like bears, wolves, coyotes, and other things, just because they're mundane, that they are necessarily boring or they can't be adventurous. See, something that I liked to sort of play up when I DM'd with Zyphelius from time to time, because I would actually get a chance to do that. And something that he actually liked about what I did is my small encounters at the very beginning were never like, and you fight 15 goblins and
Yep.
these goblins are like all level 1 things. They were like, you were adventuring or walking through the woods, right, with your caravan or something, and a bunch of wolves attacked, right? Okay, well, the wolves, I'm going to stagger all of their initiatives because they're NPCs, and I'm the only people whose initiatives I really worry about are the players' initiatives. And so I'll stagger the wolves so that everybody's kind of, they feel as if the turns are fair, but the wolves always have an attack in between a couple of other people unless I want to group a pair of people together. And I will treat the wolves like wolves back in the day before modern technology, where we had guns and we started literally hunting them to near extinction happened, and that wolves were well fed, they were larger than they were in modern times, and they had smart pack tactics. A caravan of about 5 people, I believe personally, in 100 years wartime, maybe even before then, because we had crossbows by then, would definitely worry about a pack of wolves or something, even though they had 5 people on them.
Oh, yeah.
Because a pack of wolves would literally
be 12
rip them
to 20.
apart. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they're not unsmart. Like they're not You know, it's not like they're going to run in front of your bows for you.
Right.
Mhm,
Yeah,
exactly.
They know what they're doing.
And bears also, these bears are not the bears
I
that
see.
we're used to that are stunted by small habitats, that are, you know, I have to adapt to how humans treat other bears who
these
will
are
have
more
treated
like prehistoric cave bears.
These are
Exactly.
like
Yeah,
prehistoric
the cloud-spiked
cave
bears, the
They're
sort of thing that
huge.
a non-hunter would not want anything to do with.
They have a lot of time by themselves too, so they're not afraid of humans the same way that modern animals nowadays are totally afraid of humans.
Well, yeah,
They're
like
more like they avoid humans, but they know they could eat you.
yeah, absolutely. And so these animals are still very dangerous.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Boars, for instance, like I had like made light of a boar for a while, right? And then I did some research on big game hunting because of today's topic.
Right.
And
I was
there
like,
are
check out the
500
feral pigs in
pound
Florida.
boars, literally bigger in mass than I am, that like even though their tusks are like this big,
You're skinny,
apparently they're like razor sharp, and this boar could literally, if it like rammed me, pick me up, lift me up 10 feet in the air, and then throw me. And this boar is literally like shorter in stature than
Terry, you
Annabelle,
man.
or, like this guy's dog,
Yeah.
right? Like boars are fucking
My dog weighs over 300 pounds.
scary.
just so you understand.
Prehistoric ultra bear.
Yeah.
You got it.
There are, however, some legitimate monsters that we have written about in the past that are not otherworldly threats so much as things that are native to Theleston that you don't find here. For example, in one of the stories, we called it an ogre, but there's sort of a large proto-simian hairless bear. So it's like a bear with overdeveloped arms. That I can't think of his name now, but our Conan analog fights and almost gets his ass kicked because it's way more than he's ready for.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Though I would still qualify that as an animal. That's
Yeah.
it's a
That's what I said.
beast.
We call it, like the people in the village called it an ogre, but
Yeah.
it's a beast of Theleston.
Yeah.
But it's like if you saw one in the forest, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, everybody, look.
Yeah.
You would be like, run! Right? Because it's terrifying.
Crikey, it's the ogre bear.
Yeah.
These guys get riled up. Let's be quiet.
And there's a.
I know it can
You have
smell
encountered a gorilla.
Right.
I know it can hear me. I can see how it's smelling.
Yeah, and they're grim, and there are a couple of other examples of things like that, but they're almost as rare as the real monsters, and that you're not like, don't go over Ogre Pass, that's a terrible place to be.
Yep, there's
They're
shit
like-
tons of ogres over there.
They're like, oh shit, I heard an ogre moved into the area around whatever, right?
Yeah. You need a professional
And that's because
to clear
they're
out that
and-
cave.
I also believe that's very fair as well, because these animals that people fight in general RPGs in reality, right, are considered megafauna. And there can only be so much megafauna on a planet because megafauna need fauna and fauna that eat plants in order to survive
Right.
in general. This is one of the
So
reasons
you're saying
why
that-
statistically people are like, if humans don't intervene, all megafauna will eventually go extinct
Yeah.
because humans are a megafauna, and thus we are taking all the megafauna spots.
I understand.
And so
I'm
these beasts
curious.
must be rare.
If what you're saying, though, is that something like, I don't know, a villager asking you and everyone else today to go kill 24 fell bears would maybe be unsustainable.
Why?
I'm just curious if that's what you're saying. Is this what it sounds like?
Yeah, bring me the pelts. Actually, I don't even want the pelts. I just want the gizzards. So if you could just leave the corpses there, that would be
In the field.
Yeah.
To rot. All 24 of them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just making sure that that's actually where we're coming from.
Yeah, if you were to kill those 24 fell bears, the fell
would
bears would
destroy
probably
the
be
ecosystem.
almost extinct. You would destroy the ecosystem. Some other smaller animal might implode, then leading to a huge animal coming in, and then that's...
Yeah, a full-size, like, lowland gorilla lake? Oh, hell no.
No, not interested.
Oh yeah. Also, we also confirmed we have you said caiman, so you didn't say alligators. We have the smaller form of the giant reptile
I am
in some of the
certain
swamps.
that there are examples of every sort of aquatic carnivorous lizard you've seen in real life somewhere on Grayshore.
Sure.
Okay.
Or not Grayshore, Theleston. Grayshore, however, I think has saltwater crocodile and caiman.
Oh, okay.
And I think you get saltwater crocodile around that southern tip of Anacotha and maybe in the marshes down at the bottom area, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Certainly that southern marshy area of Anacotha is that.
Also, think I kind
Snakes,
of like to
all that
think
kind
of the Sound sort of as a as a Mediterranean Sea on steroids, and the reason why is because the Mediterranean Sea is a good example of a very deep inland sea in which a whole bunch of people travel across day in and day out. That is also violent in weather and has a shit ton of diverse creatures in it. The Mediterranean Sea is home to a slew of different shark species, some of which being some of the biggest measuring sharks in the world.
I think we have more shoals. Like, I think we're a more dangerous to your boat with regard to
We are. Yeah.
than the Med. Because I always thought I had the impression that the Med was a calm sea overall.
Yes and no.
No.
More people die. More people die because of conditions on the Med than you probably realize.
Well, right, but I thought
Also,
a lot of that was
in
shoddy
comparison-
boats and
there are
overloaded
shit
and
tons
In
of
comparison to
rocks.
the Atlantic, on
Yeah.
the other hand, yes.
that's really
Right.
Yeah. There are also shit tons of rocks in the Mediterranean too, like islands that are literally just like either just peeking over the water,
Yeah.
or you know.
So this is the issue that we have in Blackwell.
Yeah,
is that there are spikes.
I don't quote me on this, but I
Yeah,
remember
in some
reading
places
that
it's like,
Crete
well, what
was
comes to
really
that?
hard
Yeah,
to get
absolutely.
into because Crete had a port that had a whole shit ton of rocky shoals and islands that were just
Yeah.
shallow enough to totally
Jack your
rip
boat up.
under your boat. What is it called?
Big
It's-
eyes on the front of your
it's
boat,
called,
and then you can see the rocks.
Is it called Breaking Bed or something like that when your boat grinds bottom or
No,
something?
you're running around.
Oh,
Run
running around.
Yeah. That is when I learned
And
about
that's
running
all, like,
aground.
Well, for you guys, that would be northeastern piece of the Med.
Oh my god. When I learned about running aground and what that like must have been like on a wooden boat, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that if you're
No. Yeah, that's a.
Often they would deliver.
And we just run bound.
on sandy shoals.
Oh yes,
and
no,
then
but I
you
meant
have
you're
the crew out there to pull it up
No, I
onto
meant
its
you're on the
side so
ocean.
they can do half.
Yeah,
and then pull it the other way.
I mean-
so they can
Yeah,
clean
so
the
you
other
do
end.
that on purpose, though.
No,
would be
you do that on
prepared for
purpose.
that.
No, I mean you're on the ocean, you're going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, and you're close to coastal waters, which means that you're closer to the ground than you would be in open ocean, and the
then
wave
crunch.
is so big that you come down, run aground to the bottom of the ocean, are brought back up, and now your boat is fucking sinking because the entire
keel
bottom
ripped
of
out.
your ship
Yeah.
has ripped out.
Yeah.
Imagine how fucking terrifying
The real,
that right there.
the real bitch
must
is you
have
lost
been.
all your cargo.
Oh yeah, it just ripped out at the fucking bottom.
You don't have time to think about that yet.
Because I'm pretty sure this is survivable, but you lost
You have-
everything on the boat.
You have
so,
to get on. You have to get on another one of the lifeboats because that ship
Yeah.
is sinking.
Yeah, you get on the skiff.
It's not a ship anymore.
No, that
It's
is
a piece of wood.
You make
Yeah.
your way to the shore that you just destroyed your boat on, and then you lament the loss of all of the things that were in your boat.
Sometimes-
but then you
sometimes
have to
that
not
shore
get
can be
slammed
miles
against the rocks and die.
Yeah, sometimes that shore can be miles away.
No, I-
Because,
The reality
Yeah, I
is,
know.
lots of people died this way.
Yeah.
Right?
oh my god. And
Lots
so
of shipwrecks in the Mediterranean. Lots of shipwrecks.
Lots
in
of
the Mediterranean.
shipwrecks.
And so
in
I
the
think-
Blackwell Sound.
So
especially-
many shipwrecks in the Blackwell Sound, in fact, that salvaging things from wrecks is a trade skill.
Yeah,
Oh,
despite
absolutely.
it actually being a super dangerous and super expensive and labor-intensive task, we actually have in Theleston or at least Grayshore, a group of people who regularly salvage all the fucking time.
You could maybe find someone to find one and bring it back to you, Blake, but you couldn't
Keep it in a
pet
cage. Yeah.
You'd probably keep it in a in an
Yeah.
enclosure where you go, look at my monitor lizard, don't let it bite you.
Komodo
For about
dragons
a week,
have-
and then you'd sell it to an arena. Because my God, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah. Komodo dragons have bacteria in their saliva that are so poisonous
They're
that
corrosive.
that it's corrosive and we instantly get infections
Yeah.
from it. Like they build antibacterias specifically for Komodo dragon saliva because it is that bad.
It did not promise sparkle dragons.
There are no sparkle
Just
dragons.
leading you on with the sparkles and the dragons.
Probably Leviathans. But
I don't know. I think I
Sparkle
might
Dragon.
put a Sparkle Dragon in the game. Or rather, I might put some horrible creature that some idiot
Calls the Sparkle Dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might lead you on a very,
Like a
very
mad
long.
cultist. It was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that or I'll put you on a quest that takes you around the entirety of the world, all over fucking everywhere, weeks and weeks and weeks. And when you finally find it, when you finally enter the chamber of the Sparkle Dragon, it's a stained glass window.
Yeah, they like cast an image of a
Yep.
dragon.
Oh
on the ground.
look, it's so pretty.
Yep. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
That's funny. So salvaging is not exactly a questionable
Funny or
craft so much
opposite,
as
same.
a lot of pirates are also salvagers. Because it's very easy to bring your pirated goods into port and go, no, salvage that.
It's also, I would imagine that a lot of people on the black market, or pirates as well, would use places in which they have claimed for salvage. Say, they park a boat right up there, they're a salvaging crew, quote, quote, right? And they hide some goods underneath a wreck because they know that they're going to come back there the next week or the next month.
Yeah,
It could be a good...
Pull it back up.
Yeah, it could be a good storage place for those mad sailors out in the middle of the ocean.
That's dangerous.
Well, yeah, but
I
these
can see it,
sailors
though.
are mad.
Yeah.
Like, well, I believe people on the land would
They're
think
not mad.
sailors
They're
are crazy.
awash in the mother's.
They're awash in the mother's
That's right.
love.
How is it that they say
Which
so
mother?
effortlessly?
Mother Hydra
Or
mother, or Mother Anima.
Yeah, right, exactly, Daryl. That's funny.
Call it Charlie. Is his name Charlie?
Yep. Look, he sings.
We have a big alkaline desert in Anacotha.
We do.
Are there any beasts in the desert?
Oh, you mean like the Mongolian death worm?
Well,
No.
okay, so the Mongolian death worm is
Well,
an
that's
extreme example.
Ridiculous. It would be the Anacothan death worm.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yeah. The Mongolian death worm is an extreme example, and I know you bring that one up because I
But
did
no,
bring
are there,
that one
like-
up seriously
are there-
at one point.
Are there adapted reptiles and stuff?
I'm sure there are. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
in fact,
especially
if
closer
you're going to
the
go
mountain.
get yourself something like a Komodo dragon, but actually more like a monitor, something because Komodos need some amount of moisture,
Yeah, they're
whereas your
semi-aquatic and all that.
right, whereas your monitors pretty much don't. But yeah, absolutely, horned toads, the guys that squirt the blood out of their eyes, blood eyes. That's where we have our blood eyes. I knew we had them somewhere.
Mhm.
Blood eyes. Yeah, I hadn't thought
Oh,
of
that would be in Kalaja right there. That seems like one of
No,
those
no,
a swampy
Umber
thing.
eye.
A toad?
Yeah, with the kind that shoot blood out of their eyes. Those are horny toads.
Yeah, but horny
Desert
toads still.
reptiles.
Oh yeah,
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 horny
right.
toads.
Yeah,
That's right.
I thought they still needed water.
There are oases, remember?
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
also,
they are.
they're adapted to not having water for long periods.
So what kind of predators?
More like the creature that Rango encounters when it says hi.
Oh yeah.
It turns into a rock.
What kind of predators are there? Are there like venomous snakes there?
I'm sure. There are probably venomous snakes on every piece
Oh.
of Gray Shore.
Every piece of Gray Shore. Interesting, because there are certain places in
The
in world where
Anacothan
it's just
subcontinent is
cold.
big enough
Yeah.
to have snakes, so there's probably snakes there too, which means you're gonna have your dry snakes and your
They worship
moisture snakes.
Cosset. There's snakes out
They're
there.
fucking snakes out there.
And Cosset is actually known by Gray Shore, so
Well, because of the diaspora.
yes.
So they bring snakes with them.
Yeah,
Or
I
are
think there were
snakes
snakes
native?
there.
Our snakes can do animals?
Oh, I see what you did.
Yeah. Did they come over?
Well, I don't think so, because basically everywhere I've lived, there are snakes.
Same here. And I've lived in a lot of
And
places.
I have lived, to be clear, yeah, some context, I've lived in a diversity of environments.
Not with me. I lived in Connecticut for a little while. There are no snakes.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, there are.
I think it's too cold.
No,
Oh,
they go
okay.
down, they go under rocks and sleep the cold away,
Oh, okay. I've never seen a snake in Connecticut.
just like they do here.
Oh, I've seen a snake here though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I believe there are snakes and venomous snakes.
Yeah.
Well, right. And as we
Basically,
recently
an
learned on all planes. So, exactly.
What's the top?
Yes, there are snakes on the motherfucking plains.
Uh,
You gotta be careful of those snakes.
Other than a human, what would you call the top predator
All
in
these
the
motherfucking
plains?
snakes. All these
The top-
motherfucking plane of snakes.
It's probably a bird, isn't it?
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure the top predator, as you said, was human being.
Oh, I said
Um,
other than a human.
Other than human beings, I think you have, depending on environment. So, like in the lowlands, it's probably a pack dog of some sort, either
Okay.
a coyote or a wolf or depending on where you are on the trail, essentially, which piece of environment.
Yeah, I know there are mountain lions near.
We do have big cats, but big cats,
mountains,
while they are predatory, tend to be individual, solo creatures.
Yeah.
Small families
Or
rather
small.
than packs and
So while they're predators, it's not like #1 predator out there.
No,
Cat.
absolutely.
Are there prideful lions?
I've been going back and forth, but I don't think we actually have lions. I think we have large savanna cat. That isn't the
Like
that
a
actually makes a
Cyril?
lot more sense.
isn't the
Yeah, more
floofy
like a big Cyril
African
or something,
lion,
or
more
like
like-
a cheetah.
way bigger than a serval, more like a cheetah or perhaps a tiger, right?
And those things are the ones that live in.
But again,
groups in
tigers don't tend to be slaughtering marauders. They eat.
Yeah.
Then they do their stuff.
There are a couple of
They're
few
scary.
black swans of some scary Indian tiger stories that I know of. Because
So this
tigers
is what
are my
happens when
favorite
they
animal.
find villages.
Yeah.
And then they know they can go to the village and get a kid.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
there's always some kids over there.
Not a tiger, but is a lion
That's about
story.
learning.
There were 2 northern savanna or northern African
The ghost of the
lions
The Ghost of the Darkness, yeah.
that basically they were trying to build this bridge across
The
the
railroad
Congo
bridge.
River, and they murdered the ever-living fuck out of hundreds and hundreds
Yeah.
of workers because
14
this.
people the first night, and then they got worse from there.
Yeah, because the English hunter who
Cool
was
story,
hired couldn't.
Good enough you make a
Find
movie out of it.
They did make a movie
probably.
out of it. I actually didn't know they had a movie out of it until after I read the Wikipedia
Yeah,
page.
because it's
and
a
the
cool
other shit.
story.
Yeah.
Dude, that story was really cool, and I was prompted to read that story because I was looking up how mundane monsters could be. Well, how mundane beasts
Become
could be
monsters.
monsters, because I was worried about our kind of weird lack of monster issue, though I think it's not an issue anymore. I'm on the side where I think Theleston is dark and scary enough that it has made our mundane creatures dark and scarier than
Without
even they
using
were
bone
back in the
spurs.
day that they were dark and scary.
But we will have bone spurs, right?
Maybe.
Of course we will.
Maybe one
We'll just have
bear.
more.
No, we'll have less. We'll have
Our
fewer
mental
bones.
plane of bone spurs. It's the dire plane.
The dire plane. No.
There's no animals. It's just bone spurs.
It's just bone spurs rattling in the wind.
They just erupt out of the earth.
This is a fell plane, guys.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think the most common, predator is as I said, is
Mosquitoes.
yes, but it has to do with location,
Mhm.
and is the kind of thing that eats the most there,
Yeah, well, speaking of mosquitoes, what's are bugs a big deal?
Yeah. I think there are mosquitoes. I think
Are
they do carry disease.
Yeah, bug-borne fevers.
And fleas as well. So fleas and mosquitoes, vectors, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I think there are even a group of people that realize that that's where some illnesses come from.
Excuse me. Are there spiders, or are they only come from the elemental planes of horror?
No, I think there are small everyday spiders. I think basically your everyday sort
What's
of
the
creatures
biggest
all
spider?
sort of exist.
Biggest spider in Theleston that isn't a magic being.
Somewhere in a book
That isn't
in
a
Sky
magic
Pass,
Yeah.
there's this drawing
Yeah.
of a spider that's about the size of a dinner plate that eats
Okay.
birds.
Okay.
But it's not on Grey Shore.
Okay.
It's from another warmer clime.
Yeah, I would actually expect that the big spiders wouldn't live. Like, the biggest spider that lives here in Colorado isn't even the bird eater. It's a rosy, and it's like that big.
If you go west side of the Rocky, you get the bigger
You get
trees.
some bigger tarantulas.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Those are pretty neat.
But around here, we get the little tiny ones that are like, oh, my face is now going to fall off. That's awesome. I got to go.
Yeah,
You
you
get
can.
recluses and shit like that.
Yeah. And we do have recluses out here. But we don't have as many widows as they do in Southern California.
No, I would actually rather be bitten by a widow than a recluse.
Yeah, me too. With a widow, I know I'm probably
I
going to survive. With
I agree.
With a recluse, I could be losing my entire arm.
I
my
agree with
face.
both of these. But the thing is that
I'm a strong, healthy male of 21
widows are
years of
fucking
age.
everywhere
Yeah.
where widows live.
Yes, they are. But the point is that you can survive even untreated being bitten by a widow.
Yeah.
The likelihood of that being true for a brown recluse is significantly
It's-
small. Still possible, though, to be fair.
And it's only significantly smaller because of the fucking infection you get from its fucking
Feel bad,
rotting
motherfucker.
fucking
Yeah.
venom that
Necrosis,
rots your
boys.
fucking flesh. Gross.
Yeah,
We
fun.
love it.
Big birds. Well, I know of one big
Yeah.
bird that I keep on talking about.
I
but don't
never
like
saw a
birds.
recluse out there the whole time, and I lived out there
But
15
they're out there.
years. I mean, I guess I
They
know
are
that they
out
do
there.
exist, but I never saw a recluse out there.
Where
But
I
saw
lived, it was
shit tons of
yeah,
widows.
where I lived in Southern California. I lived in Orange County. The widows were so bad in some places. Like I remember sitting on my back porch with an industrial-sized can of aerosolized spider poison, with a straw sticking out of it so that it would shoot a stream instead of an aerosol. And I would just stomp my foot, and they would all come running, like out of the ground. I should probably mention we didn't have a lawn because of a dispute we were having with our homeowners association, but they were supposed to pay for it and didn't. You know?
Yeah.
So there was no lawn in this area that was supposedly our backyard. But they would come running, and I don't mean like one or two, I mean like 15 or 20 of them. They would come running towards the thump, and I would just sit there and play Space Invaders with them.
And they're aggressive.
Right? Yeah. Oh, so many. But as a result, I kind of don't have the same fear of them that I used to because I kind of understand them now.
Yeah.
You know? Brown recluses are still kind of a boogeyman to me because I've never really seen one, even though they're supposedly all over here.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think we have spiders. Deer, coyote, mountain lions, and recluse. Yeah. Well, and I've actually
I bet, Rose.
I've been less than 10 feet from a mountain lion up Santiago Canyon in Southern California there. So hanging out with a bunch of people tripping on LSD.
See, that bothers me, Zero, because like Alaska was my spider plant.
Huh. Hey. Cannibals?
Are there cannibals?
Mad cannibals.
Well, if they were cannibals.
Well, over time, depending on how you prepare your meat, you become mad cannibals, even if you weren't to begin with, because of cryons.
Yeah. No, but I meant, is there like
So
a
you're
place
mad
that you don't
cannibals
go because,
disease?
you know, yeah.
Or all the cannibals fine? Well, maybe if they're young, then they.
Yes. Yeah. There is no record of a stable
Cannibal community.
cannibal community.
Okay.
Every now and then people hear about somebody eating people, and they generally think of it as some nutbag stuff.
Of course, absolutely. No, I was just wondering if there was a community of people like that who were overtly aggressive to outsiders who were like a cannibal community that could be used as what normal RPers would call, you know, bandit fodder.
Well, so here's the deal. I
And
have
I really
made,
don't like
from the beginning of this game, I
Yeah.
have made every effort to not segregate human beings into human beings that are the primacy and human beings that are degraded.
Absolutely.
Because specifically, all of the lore from Lovecraft does treat people in this way.
Yes.
There's a whole segment of humanity that Lovecraft uses as the source of, you know, of the bad magic, of the fetish following peoples,
Right.
of the and I don't feel like calling any individual out as the source of the lost and thus bad magics benefits us. I think, in fact, there's lost and bad magic from every culture in Theleston, all of them equally.
Yeah.
And so, I don't want to make bandits are fine. Bandits are obviously the bad guy because they're trying to rob you to enrich themselves. Thus, they're the bad guy. But they're not trying to do that because their lifestyle is
or deep in their bones
savage,
is evil,
or or they are
Could
naturally
they be doing
evil.
it because they're worshipping Beth Galore?
Certainly, but that's a whole different thing too. They're still they're still a human being with complete agency, and you know they're not a degraded people. So like the reason I wouldn't have a cannibal culture that were, you know, wearing skulls on their pates and dancing around with the pot with the poor explorer sitting in the middle, you know, like in the cartoons, fucking, is because now you've created a subhuman race.
Yeah,
and
which is
and
not acceptable.
I'm not even going there.
Absolutely
I'm not even going
not.
to goblins.
No.
Because goblins are a subhuman. That shit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I didn't have any of that stuff in my lore to begin with. It's
Yeah.
because I think we're beyond that, you know. And there's a far more scariness in completely other developed people. Like people are scary enough.
Not yet, Rose. Though I think I might be able to now. No, in Lovecraft, there are always savage tribes, or they're, people who reverted to cannibalism and became ghouls.
Yeah, ghouls.
Or,
ghouls are people that
or
started
Yeti,
at normal.
depending on the story. But yeah.
Yeah, but they become degraded and become animal people because they eat other animals and go run in the underworld with the other ghouls.
Yeah.
But then, for the most part, it's deep in the swamps. All of the people who actually practiced the secret rites of Hindu, spelled with 2 O's, and voodoo, also misspelled, and Lovecraft would just glom them together into raving, crazy people that would make the bad guys the monsters happen. But it was always from Haiti or Africa or India or the far-flung edges of civilization.
Yeah, and they were always debased.
And they're always debased, right? And I don't need that. I excise that shit. I can write this story without it.
Exactly.
So yeah, and it doesn't really have any goblins, as far as I know.
No, not really. Well, we do have those like weird little things that he talked about in that one story, but those are very obviously non-human.
Right. Yeah. And
they come from another plane. Yeah.
They come from another plane. They're also spinning teeth, basically.
Yeah. Well, and the monster that the planeswalker encountered in the Hall of Doors, right? That's a monster. But there was an Nyarlathotep from there.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so
they called himself the Black Pharaoh.
Yeah. So if you're a cannibal, because the ritual you're doing, the cult ritual says now you got to eat the sacrifice.
Yeah, consume the flesh.
Sure. But at that point, I think you've already drawn a line about what side of the adventurer / the Theleston versus the Outers
conflict
that you're on.
No, maybe I'm doing it for Beth. Oh, good old Beth Galore.
She doesn't need you to eat them.
Yeah.
She's more
watch me eat them.
She's more a bathe in their blood, orgiastically. Cut their throat at the height of orgasm over a chalice. And then.
Oh no, Lord, that's great, and I'll do that. But I'm also a hunter. I need to be very practical with my meat.
The actual lore of Green Town, because they were.
Oh, that's where they turn into ghouls, right? Isn't that one?
Yeah, in the actual Lovecraft stories, most cannibals become ghouls.
Yeah,
like Pickman's model and those sort of things. You mean like in the real world? So you mean like Aztec practice or Mayan practice? Because I actually just did some studying about that recently.
Likewise.
Turns out they really did at a couple of those places consume the flesh of the sacrifices. The Mayans.
There you go. Because I was like, who really did? Because some of them didn't actually do that sacrifice.
At the temple of Quetzalcoatl.
Yes. There you go.
Just studied that last week.
The Aztecs who are often
I don't think there's a town
Mayan.
Theleston
They would do blood sacrifice.
where people are Jeffrey Dahmering as a cultural thing.
Not that I can think of.
Not that I can think of. And I think if you had any stable culture after a while, unless they really knew how to cut away the spinal material and brain material, you're gonna get some Creutzfeldt Jacobs.
Well, like if you only ate the
feet
or the butts or whatever. Yeah.
Glutes. It's glute day.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not like good meat, right? So.
I would think so. Yeah, I think a cult town would eventually disintegrate. Or be destroyed if it was a problem.
That depends on how often it happens and things like that, right?
So like
if it's a every third year when, the eye of the devourer is in the sky, then we eat.
Yep.
Well, that's more along the lines of rumors that sometimes people disappear around there.
Right. Yeah, people wouldn't feel the same way. Though I think that if somebody was there, saw it happen, and was like, ah, you'd have a whole adventure.
Yeah. But you're probably going to get eaten.
Well, maybe you run.
Yeah, hopefully before you scream, ah. But yeah.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I would love to see Chichen Itza.
Yeah, me too.
I want to go to Peru and see and see all the old stuffs. That would be so dope. And I also want to go to fucking. There's some.
Aztec.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I also want to go to. Yeah, that's exactly right. I realized as I had said it.
Yeah, I was about to say also. Aztecs
I want to
don't
see all
do
that
the
shit.
human
I want to see
sacrifice
all the
thing.
South American fucking temples. They're dope.
Aztecs do this blood
Yeah.
sacrifice thing in which they would do things like cut their hands or their foreskin and then bleed a
And
little
then-
bit.
So yeah, they would do that, and specifically they would bleed
Yeah.
over the can't remember the word for it, but there's a kind of agriculture where they would flood these canals so that there were
Yeah.
these little floaty islands, and the
Yeah.
island would lift up and float,
Yeah.
and then they would drain them and use the saturated land and do the thing. And
Yes.
so the priest would come by when they were planting, and they would put seeds in their hand, and they would cut their hand and throw seeds and blood together into the earth, and it made it grow better.
It's good fertilizer.
But I'm just saying, just so you all know, Mayans are the ones who do the human sacrifice thing. Aztecs are more like, yeah, blood sacrifice is good enough.
The Aztecs are the ones that also are like, hey, let me get you high, take you through the underworld.
Yes, absolutely. And we're also
To
we're gonna build this.
Shibamba?
We're gonna build this place right here, and so we're gonna need 9 people, not from our tribe, but we're gonna need 9 people. And so they bring the 9 people in, and then they whack them and bury them under the front of the temple that they were building there, and consecrate it to.
Yeah, well,
In the case of Quetzalcoatl.
gotta pay the price.
To Shibamba.
Quite a bit. Xibalba's down in the cenote. That's another thing. I'd love to go see some of those cenotes.
Hey, any cenotes?
So I've already gone through this in my head.
Yeah.
I think yes, but I think not in this part of the world.
Okay.
I think though there are probably holes in the ground that go into caverns.
In Greyshore? Is there a big hole that they call the hole?
Not that anyone knows about now,
Okay.
but I can think of a place that I have completely designed and thought of in another place that starts that way.
Okay.
I could also think of a place on Greyshore that you wouldn't think of that being a cenote, but if you get deep enough, it pretty much has to be.
Yeah. Yep.
Sketchy.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said a couple times, I think the most common monster is humans. I think otherwise it's whatever the local carnivore is, and people generally know how to deal with their local carnivores. Yeah, so
To an extent, but yeah.
the most common monster, probably mean-spirited, black-hearted.
The secret is its man.
Secret is its man.
Combine all the elements of the most evilest creatures together.
Yeah. Oh, well, and we also know that it's dangerous to fly the seas. There are monsters in the ocean.
Mm.
Well, that's what the fishermen say.
Any people-eating birds?
People like a rock.
That's a little bigger than the ones that I was suggesting because I like condors and shit like that.
I do like
I don't
condors.
think eat people.
They really don't. That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say.
Not when they're alive.
I think we have a real big bird, but I think it's like a condor and
Albatross.
cries out as it flies out of the mountaintop.
And eats corpses.
It goes squee,
And
you
it
go,
eats corpses.
oh look, there, the great bird.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, there's no common like supernatural monster. Not like common.
Not anymore.
Right. There used to be. There are a lot of legends of.
Plagues of things like imps.
Yeah.
But imps in our world are not imps that you would see in other worlds.
No.
Right. They're more made
They're
of
like
magic.
spinning teeth.
More made
Yeah,
of-
they're the ones that have their chest is split open into a big toothy maw. Like
Yep.
there's actually an imp model in the game. But
Yep. I remember.
yeah, there were imps, deep ones, a couple of other creatures that we haven't named, but which were plentiful like that.
Yeah, there were the things that would take you, but lead you like will-o-wisps, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess there are wisps.
So I guess you got will-o-wisps, but those are more like, again, if you see a
follow
light,
those.
don't follow a ghost light, kid.
Well, and will-o-wisps are kind of like a spirit.
And
Yeah.
everybody knows that.
And of course, we have real ghosts. So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and yeah, fetchers don't tend to be malign
Aggressive.
unless you're running away from them. They are, in fact, not even part of your experience unless they're there for you. Exhale. And
Yeah, and
Nicely.
the fetchers are interesting because sometimes you'll be looking at a monster and not even realize you are unless they're after you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, fetchers are, for the most part, trying to do their business on the loadout. And then the other monsters are things like you die, you go to Anime's realm, and you need to move through Anime's realm. Well, the fetchers may not be there to hurt you, but there might be things from other realms that are there
To prey on you.
And we'll
prey
definitely
on you.
legitimately
talk about
prey on
those.
Right. And those are monsters.
Yeah.
And those are monsters people might experience.
We'll need to talk about those eventually.
As that, probably not nightmares of that sort. Flames from their hooves.
Yeah, well, maybe from the Dreamlands, but that seems.
Maybe in the dreamland.
That's what I mean, but that seems a little what's the word?
Yeah.
Right here. But jokes aside, there are pocket universes, for lack of a better term, and there are creatures
Of those pocket universes, right?
Right.
Yeah. Did I?
That's a totally different creature.
Yeah, that's a whole different creature.
You probably see that one on a Japanese anime about waifus.
Flames from their boobs.
Oh,
Hooves.
Hooves.
Like the Doctor.
Dr. Hooves.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You
All right, we are.
next time
we are
you
hitting
ever
our
say that
time,
you
so.
don't drop your phone.
Yeah, I know. We still didn't break it yet.
Yeah, you dropped it like
4 times this show.
yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5 times, and then when I drop mine, it breaks once, and you're gonna admonish me, and I'm like, dude,
Don't call me dude.
I'll call you dude if I want to call you dude, buddy.
Okay.
Anyway, so
It's about our time to
It's
wrap
about our
up.
time.
So
if you've got any other questions or anything, I suggest you throw them at me. And
Yep.
just try to address the idea of where are the monsters? Where do the beasts come?
Mystical ones on the plains.
So we do have a little piece of sad news to deliver before we go.
Indeed.
We, as you know, engage with a client of ours during the back half of the week,
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
working on their project to get their game shipped. They have a major deadline coming up that they need to have done before the holidays.
Correct.
And so they have asked for more of our time, which means I don't think we're going to be able to do the fireside chats for the next few weeks unless we figure out a way
special
to
schedule.
do them on the weekends or something. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it work. So I'm not saying they're canceled yet. I am saying, however, if we can't figure out a way to make it work,
We may have to super show them. We may have to do one on
we
a Saturday.
We may have to figure out another arrangement for the month of December until they hit their deadline. And I would blow them off, except that they literally pay for these brilliant lights that allow you to see who we are, and the stream that allows you to hear us speak. So
And the power.
right,
And my dinner.
So we kind of can't.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. So, on that note, we do appreciate your support, of course.
And we will be back as soon as they meet their deadline, if that's
Absolutely.
what happens. I just want to let you guys know that it's a potential.
Correct. And we will, of course, stay in Discord and be in touch with you, and you'll be knowing what's going on.
Yep.
And as we move into the holidays, we know that you've got holidays, and we actually kind of only have holidays when we choose to, because when our clients say things like, hey, we take these days off, we go, but we... Please, sir.
I need
the money. So we will try to find ways to kick it out in between through the holiday. If any of us do any weirdness, we'll see what we can do about keeping you in the loops, and maybe I'll parry myself or something. I don't know. We'll do what we can, as we always have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also something that we can consider doing, Rose. Whatever we need to do, though, we'll figure it out. I just want to let you guys know that this is coming up and that it's happening. So, other than that, any questions? Otherwise, I think we are out for the evening. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. I'm actually really kind of glad that we had a chance to talk this time because we had some really cool stuff to talk about. It was
Yeah, we
cool.
did.
I agree, and that's an interesting idea, Rose. Because we do commonly have Sundays that might be a slot we can work out. We're just working it out. We'll get there.
All right. See you guys later.
Later.
Thanks.
See you later tonight.